I guess the story really started just a little over 10 years ago, August 4th, 2005. Cheryl and I were sitting up one night. It was around 11 o'clock at night, getting ready for bed when Cheryl just out of the blue, out of nowhere, just kind of grabbed at her right eye.
The worst headache.
And just yelled and said, I think her words were, "Oh my God, something's wrong." I called 911. Cheryl was basically unconscious on the floor. The paramedics took her out, had her in the ambulance. We live about 7-8 miles from a major hospital, Rhode Island Hospital, which has a major trauma center. And I asked them if they were taking her down to Rhode Island, and the paramedics said no, they were taking her to the local hospital here in North Attleboro. When I arrived there, 10 or 15 minutes later, went in the emergency room asking, where my wife was, and I remember having 5 or 6 people looking at me with very blank looks on their face saying that nobody had been brought in. And I said, yeah, her name was Cheryl Campbell. She just came in by ambulance. They got on the phone to the fire department, and the fire department said no, that they had been redirected down to Rhode Island Hospital. So I back out in the car and headed down to Rhode Island Hospital. I went in, told them who I was. Some nurses came out, had me take a seat. I believe they had a social worker at that point come out, which is obviously when you know that something really significant is going on. And probably within an hour or so, they said they had to take her in for surgery. She had some bleeding on the brain. She made it through her first surgery that night, several hours of surgery. The doctor, I remember, came out and said that they went in, they had removed the bone plate. The bleeding had stopped, but they were unable to find the cause of the bleeding. So they brought her up to neuro ICU, and over the next several days ran a whole battery of various tests on her. And it was probably 4 or 5 days later, one of the tests, the MRI, showed a very, very small aneurysm, but they didn't think that was the cause because it was so small. So back into surgery, her second surgery in the brain in a matter of a few days. So sitting in the waiting room, I remember the surgeon coming back out, the same surgeon again, and telling me that it was the aneurysm. The reason it read so small, it was a kind of unique aneurysm, which was a little more challenging for him to fix surgically, but he was able to put a clip on it, and I'll never forget his words that night, is that I've repaired it as best I could. And I remember that wasn't very comforting at the time.
I rely on a lot of people, and that's one thing that is hard for me. But to get me to the point that I'm at has been the support of family members and friends. And that's what's carried me through to this point of being a 10-year survivor.
Mm-hmm. And our 30th wedding anniversary was just a month ago,
yeah,
which we celebrated at our daughter's wedding.
And that was a great occasion, and I was here to see that all. Still to this day, there's always a challenge, but I have to just tell myself to fight forward, to go step forward and keep on going. You can do this, Cheryl. And that's why I'm here.
I think Cheryl's situation highlights the whole issue of early detection and considering the diagnosis. Once that diagnosis was considered, a simple scan was obtained, and within minutes, the diagnosis was known. And then she could be mobilized to centers where she would be treated appropriately and in fact have a good outcome if treated appropriately and early. So her case highlights this issue of consider the diagnosis, think subarachnoid hemorrhage if you're a physician or even a family member, and then rapid evaluation of that problem.